Welcome to the Mirrex Media Podcast. Today, we're definitely putting on our brilliant bookworm hat.
That's right.
We're diving into a really fascinating section from the book Atomic Habits by James Clear.
It's a great one.
Yeah. Our mission really is to unpack the second law of behavior change, make it attractive. We want to explore how our brains are, wired for desire, and maybe how we can use that wiring to build better habits for ourselves.
Absolutely. And the book gives us some truly insightful stuff here. It gets into the science behind why we crave things.
Right.
And how that craving really drives what we do. Prepare for a few aha moments, I think.
Okay, awesome. So let's dig in. The book starts us off, maybe a bit unexpectedly, with animal behavior, some experiments by Nico Tinbergen. He was a Nobel Prize winner, Dutch scientist. Tell us about those herring gulls.
Yeah, it's quite fascinating. Tinbergen saw these newly hatched herring gull chicks, right? And they naturally peck at this little red dot on their parents' beaks to get fed. Standard stuff. But then he made these fake cardboard beaks. And the amazing thing was the chicks pecked at these fakes just as hard. Maybe even harder if the red dots were bigger or more pronounced.
No way.
Yeah. He even made one, the book says, with 3 huge red dots, and apparently the chicks went crazy with delight. It's like their little brains had this simple rule, red dot equals food, and a bigger, better red dot just, short-circuited them in a good way from their perspective.
That is wild. And there was something similar with geese, right? Gray-leg geese and eggs.
Exactly the same principle. The gray-lag goose, it instinctively rolls around things nearby back into its nest, things that look vaguely like eggs.
Like billiard balls.
Billiard balls, light bulbs, you name it. And the key thing here is the bigger the fake egg, the stronger the goose's reaction. The book mentions one goose trying its absolute best to roll a volleyball back.
Volleyball.
Yeah, and then try to sit on it. It's a perfect example of what scientists call supernormal stimuli. They're basically these heightened, exaggerated versions of reality that trigger a stronger, almost automatic response than the real thing.
Okay, so here's where it gets, really interesting for us. The book connects this directly to humans. How we also fall for these exaggerated versions, especially with things like, say, junk food. How does that connection work?
Well, if you think about the big picture, our ancient human brains evolved during times when calories were scarce. Salt, sugar, fat, these things were rare and incredibly valuable for survival.
Right, energy dense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we developed this intense craving for them. Fast forward today, food's everywhere, but our brains, they're still running that old software. They still crave those things like we're desperately trying to survive.
And the modern food industry knows this all too well.
Oh, absolutely. They are masters at exploiting this. They create what the book terms hyperpalatable foods. These companies pour millions into finding the precise bliss point.
That perfect combo.
The perfect combination of salt, sugar, and fat that just lights up our reward circuits. And it's not just taste. They even engineer the oral sensation, how food feels in your mouth.
Like the crunch of a chip.
Yeah, or the crunchy outside and soft inside of French fries. Or that dynamic contrast you get with, gooey cheese on a crispy pizza crust. Natural foods, like an apple or some broccoli, they don't usually offer that kind of constant novelty. Your brain gets bored faster. But processed foods, they're designed to keep the experience interesting, which kind of nudges us to keep eating.
Wow. It really makes you pause and think about the environment we live in now.
Yeah.
Stuff our ancestors never dealt with. The book quotes neuroscientist Stephen Gane saying, "We've gotten too good at pushing our own buttons."
Yeah, it's a powerful quote.
Yeah. And this overeating is just one example of this second law, right? Make it attractive. The book points out our world is just filled with these engineered realities. Think about mannequins with impossible proportions or social media likes giving you that quick hit of validation.
Online porn, photoshopped ads.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All designed to amplify features we're naturally drawn to, often pushing us into habits that aren't great for us. And the book suggests it's only going to get more intense. Future rewards will likely be even more concentrated, more attractive.
Which means understanding why things become attractive is, it's crucial. And that brings us neatly to the biology underneath it all.
Right. What's actually happening in our brains?
Well, the book really highlights the role of this key neurotransmitter, dopamine. There was this experiment back in 1954, James Olds and Peter Milner. They did something pretty drastic. They blocked dopamine production in rats.
And what happened?
The results were stark. The rats basically lost all will to live. That's the quote. They stopped eating. They wouldn't mate. They didn't seem to want anything. They just faded away and eventually died of thirst.
Wow. So it's not just about feeling pleasure. It's about the desire,
Yeah.
the motivation.
Precisely. Later studies confirm this. Even rats without dopamine could still experience pleasure. Like, if you gave them sugar, their faces would show enjoyment. They still liked it. But without dopamine, the wanting died.
And without wanting.
Action stops. Desire is the engine. On the flip side, if you flood the reward system with dopamine, animals perform habits like crazy. The book mentions mice poking a box like 800 times an hour just for that dopamine hit.
Which sounds disturbingly similar to, say, a slot machine player.
Exactly. The book draws that parallel. The average slot player spins maybe 600 times an hour. It shows how dopamine fuels these compulsive loops. Drugs, gambling, endless scrolling, they're all tied to these dopamine spikes.
So the critical piece here, the really big insight, is about anticipation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not just getting the reward.
Yes, absolutely critical. The book makes it clear. Dopamine is released not just when you get the reward, but very powerfully when you anticipate it. Think about it. Gambling addicts feel that rush before the bet is placed. Cocaine addicts get a surge just from seeing the drug. Anytime your brain predicts that something rewarding is coming, dopamine levels jump. And that jump is what motivates you to act. It's the anticipation that gets you moving.
Which explains why the book says anticipating something can feel better than actually getting it. Like, looking forward to a vacation can sometimes be the best part. Or being a kid waiting for Christmas morning.
Spot on. That's the difference scientists talk about between wanting and liking. And our brains are actually built for wanting more than liking.
Really? How so?
Yeah, there's way more neural real estate dedicated to the wanting circuits. They're large, spread out. The liking centers, much smaller, more like little islands. So this really emphasizes that desire, that wanting, is the true engine driving our behavior. Every action we take starts with that anticipation.
Okay, so this is fascinating, but what's the practical application? If desire and anticipation are so powerful, how do we, use this? How do we make the habits we want to build more attractive?
This is where the book introduces a really clever strategy called temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling. Okay.
And the idea is pretty simple, actually. You link an action. You want to do something you genuinely enjoy with an action you need to do, maybe one you find less appealing.
Gotcha, like pairing things up.
Exactly. The book gives this great example of an engineering student, Ronan Byrne. He loved watching Netflix, but knew he should exercise more.
A common dilemma.
Totally. So he rigged his stationary bike. Netflix would only play if he was cycling above a certain speed. Slow down, and the show paused.
That's brilliant. So he bundled the want, Netflix, with the need, exercise.
Precisely. He was, as the book puts it, eliminating obesity one Netflix binge at a time. And, businesses do this constantly.
Oh, yeah? Like how?
Well, the book mentions ABC's TGIT campaign, Thank God It's Thursday. They explicitly encouraged people to watch their Thursday night shows while doing things they already enjoyed, like relaxing, drinking wine, eating popcorn.
So they were associating watching their shows
with things people already wanted to do. They bundled the need for ABC, getting viewers with the existing want for relaxation and treats. Over time, you start to associate watching ABC on Thursday with feeling good. Makes the habit stickier.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's based on, Premack's principle.
That's the one. Premack's principle basically states that more probable behaviors, things you're already likely to do, things you enjoy, will reinforce less probable behaviors. So you can use something you want to do as a reward for doing something you need to do.
So eventually, you might even start looking forward to the need part because it's your gateway to the want part.
That's the goal. And the book gives a handy little formula to combine this with habit stacking, another technique. It goes like this.
Okay.
1. After my current habit, I will do habit I need.
Right.
2. After I do habit I need, I will do habit I want.
Simple enough. Yeah. So for someone listening, how could they use this?
Well, let's say you want to keep up with the news, but you feel you need to practice more gratitude. You could set it up. After I get my morning coffee current habit, I will say one thing I'm grateful for that happened yesterday habit I need. After I say one thing I'm grateful for, I will read the news habit I want.
Nice. So the news becomes the reward for the gratitude practice.
Exactly. Or another one. Maybe you want to check Facebook all the time, but you need to get more exercise in. You could try. After I pull out my phone current habit, I will do 10 burpees habit I need. After I do 10 burpees, I will check Facebook habit I want.
Okay, I see how that works. The idea is you start associating the burpees with getting to check Facebook, making the burpees slightly less dreadful, maybe even anticipated.
That's the power of it. You engineer the attraction.
All right, so let's quickly recap this Mirex Media podcast exploration of atomic habits. The second law is make it attractive. We looked at how exaggerated things, these supernormal stimuli, can hijack our instincts.
Like those gulls and geese.
Yeah. And then how dopamine fuels our desire, crucially, through the anticipation of a reward, not just the reward itself, that wanting versus liking.
A key distinction.
And the big practical tool is temptation bundling, pairing something you need to do with something you genuinely want to do to make the need habit more appealing.
Exactly. And what's really empowering here is knowing this stuff, understanding the biology and psychology lets you consciously design your routines. You can make good habits feel less like a chore and more like something you actually look forward to.
Which leads to a great question for everyone listening.
Yeah. What want can you pair with a need to make your next important habit feel, well, irresistible?
Great question to ponder. Well, thank you for joining us on this Mirex Media podcast. Digging into atomic habits, we really hope exploring how to make habits attractive gives you some solid, usable tools. Maybe inspires you to be a brilliant bookworm, too.
Oh, so?
And, hey, if you enjoy this chat and found it useful, please do us a favor and like this video. It genuinely helps more people find this content.
It really does.
And we'd love it if you'd share this content with friends, family, colleagues, anyone you think could use these strategies for building better habits.
Spread the knowledge.
And finally, please make sure you subscribe to the Mirex Media YouTube channel. That way, you won't miss out on our future explorations of fascinating books and big ideas. We'll definitely be back soon with another topic.